The subject of UFOs and ETs is very complicated, complex, and highly intricate. I don't know if I can condense it down to just a short thing, but I've been investigating ETs and UFOs for over 25 years. I've written 4 books on the subject. So I'm always recommending, if you want to know about the story of the ETs, is to go to my book, The Custodians. That's my 25 years of working with them and all the different phases I went through as I was trying to understand this interesting phenomenon. But in that book, I found the answers to any questions anybody would ever want to ask about UFOs and ETs. Then I went on to write, Keepers of the Garden was one of the first ones. Then there was The Legend of Star Crash and Legacy from the Stars, and then The Custodians. And then finally, in my other Convoluted Universe books, we've gone further. But I found out that they are very positive people. There's nothing to be feared. In 25 years, I've not found a single negative experience out of anybody I've worked with, because I've been able to find out why it's happening and the reasons behind it. And once you understand that, you see the bigger picture. It's not negative at all, because it all falls into place. I do recommend anybody wanting to know more information about this to read The Custodians, because that and Keepers of the Garden tell the story of how we were created by ETs at the beginning of the world and where we came from, our physical bodies and how they were designed. So they have been watching us and taking care of us since the beginning of our creation. That's why many times they're called the Watchers, because they've been watching over our world and over us for such a long, long time. And they're very interested in what we do, just like you are with your own children. In one of my books, they said in there was, why do they always say we're here to take over the world? It's ours, it always has been. And they said, we can't do anything as bad to you as you do to yourself. All they're doing is watching and shaking their heads, figure out what are we going to do next. Because when they created man, and I'm not going to go into the whole complex story, they said, let's give this beautiful planet a creature with intelligence and free will and see what he does with it. And of course, I'm always thinking they're sitting there shaking their heads because they don't like what we have done with it. But we have free will. We have a free will to make mistakes and do things we shouldn't do, as we do in our own lives. That's because this is the only planet in the universe that has been created with free will. I've had many people go back to lifetimes where they lived on planets where there wasn't free will. And they could hardly wait to get out of there and get out of that lifetime, because it was not a very happy lifetime. So this is a very unique planet in many, many ways. And one of the main ones is that we have free will. Another one of the directives that they gave, what is called the Prime Directive when they created Earth, was the Star Trek Directive. Star Trek was not fiction. The Star Trek Directive of non-interference. Once you have created a civilization and it begins to develop, you cannot interfere with the development of that civilization. So they're bound by 2 laws. We must respect our free will, and also they cannot interfere with us. But all through the development of man, whenever the earth needed something, whenever it was developing from the primitive stages and beginning to have civilization, they would come and live among the developing species. Whenever they needed to know how to plant, whenever they needed to know about fire, when they needed to know about hunting, anytime it was the next development, they had to come and live among us to teach us. Every culture in the world has the legends of the culture bringer. The culture bringer is the one who brings the knowledge, such as the Indians have their corn woman. And every culture has someone that has come and taught them how to do things. And in every one of these cultures, in all of their legends, the culture bringer always comes from the sky or from across the sea, which fits in very nicely with ETs. But they have to live among the people to teach them. And because the ETs can live as long as they want, they have conquered disease, illness, and they've also conquered death. They're supposed to live as long as they want. They stayed among these people for eons. No, we'll say eons, not quite that long, but generations and generations and generations. So in all of these countries, in the legends, this is where the legends of the gods and the goddesses came from. These ETs that lived among the people and taught them what they were supposed to do. So they've been there from the beginning, giving us what we need at a certain time. But because the way the earth has been overpopulated now, we have so many people here now, whenever the next advancement is supposed to be given to earth, the next invention, the next idea, they can't come and live with us anymore because there's too many people. So now the next idea has to be put into the atmosphere as an idea. And this way, whoever picks it up will be the one who invents it. We always hear about many people all over the world who are working on the same inventions at the same time. This is why. It's all put into the air, and then whoever gets the idea and invents it is the one who gets the credit. But it means it must be in our timeline. This is the way it's done. At our next advancement, we have to do this. I asked them one time, well, if you can't interfere, isn't that interfering when you come and teach them something? And they said, no, we give it to you as a gift one time. What you do with that is your own free will. And many times they have given us something that we needed and we've taken it and used it in the wrong way. It was meant for good, and we've turned it around and used it negative, most of the time turning it into a weapon or something, which they don't like. It was not what it was given to us for. So I said, well, then can't you come back and tell them you're not doing it the way we told you? They said, that's interference. We give it to you one time. What you do with it is your own free will. If we come back and say you're not doing it correctly, that's interference. So we just have to let you do what you want with it because you have the gift of free will. This is what brings us up to now. In my new books, there's a great deal in the custodians. But in my new books, The 3 Waves of Volunteers and The New Earth, we are finding a whole new perspective to the UFOs and ETs. It's taking on a whole new picture that we were not allowed to see before. Most of it has to do with the vibrations and the frequency of the earth are changing now. We are moving into a new dimension. So the vibrations and frequencies of our own body have to change as we move into the other dimension with the earth. The earth is going into its next incarnation. It has incarnations just like we do. They just take longer to get there. It's moving into its next incarnation. And it doesn't care if the human race goes with it or not. It would just be as happy if we didn't go with it. We're like fleas on a dog. Much rather we didn't go, because look how we have damaged this beautiful planet. But if we want to go, we have to change our vibration and our frequency to match the Earth's as we go into the new frequency and into the new Earth and leave the old Earth behind. So it's too complicated to go into the whole thing. It's all explained in my book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth, because They had to ask for volunteers to come and help Earth because Earth is in trouble right now. And the people on Earth can't help because they're caught on the wheel of karma, repeating the same mistakes over and over again. The same karma that they have been accumulating, coming back again and again to repay that karma, and they're not learning anything. There's a whole lot more to this as to why they decided to ask for volunteers. But I'm just going to tell you this much, that many of the volunteers that have been coming since the end of World War II have come from ETs who were living, they were ETs living on other planets and in other spaceships in outer space. They were doing their job. They had their own lives. They had their own civilizations. They had no desire to come to Earth and be any part of all this because Earth is a difficult planet. They definitely don't want to be here. They would rather watch and help us like that. But as Earth needed help, we had to have volunteers come. And the call went out, who wants to help Earth? Earth is in trouble. Who wants to come and volunteer? So many of the people who are coming in now as volunteers have actually been ETs in other lives, and they've never ever been in a human body before. Can you imagine how this would be for someone coming into this mess that we call Earth, who have never ever been in a human body before? They don't know this consciously, because when we come into the body from the spirit side, memory is erased. With all of us. I've met a few exceptions, but with most of us, the memories are erased, our plan, our contracts, why we're here. So with the ETs, the same thing happened. They come into a human body. They don't like it here. I hear this repeatedly. We get email after email. We've got hundreds and thousands of emails on the same thing. And when I'm lecturing, most of the audience say, now I understand. I thought I was the only person in the world who felt like this. But now it's making sense. They've never wanted to be here. They don't like Earth. They said, why does there have to be violence? Why do you have to keep hurting people? They don't want to be here. Earth is heavy, it's dense, it's not a good place to be because it is the densest planet in the universe, the most challenging planet in the universe. So they don't want to be here. They're always saying, I want to go home. I don't know where home is. I know it's just not here. And I've had some of them email me and say they can remember being a child, standing in the kitchen, talking to their mother and saying, I want to go home. And the mother would say, but you are home. He said, no, I'm not. So they know they've never wanted to be here. They don't like it here. They'd rather be anywhere else but. And many of these people have tried to commit suicide. And I see all this in my clients. I get the same story again and again. Of course, suicide is not the answer because you have to come back and do the whole thing over again with the same people. You don't get out of anything. Do your job and then you can go home and be out of this mess. But what I want people to understand is because these are ETs living in human bodies, you got to remember, ETs just means another body, a different body. It's nothing foreign or alien. It's just a body. They're not over there separate from us. We are a soul, and the soul goes from body to body to body, learning different lessons. Takes on what I call a suit of clothes or a costume to play this part in our life right now. So you have an ET body that was just a costume, a part you were playing at that time. The majority of people listening out there have been ETs. This is nothing new. And we're maybe going to go to other planets after we leave this one. It all has to do with the lessons you're learning in the school we call Earth. So they have been coming to Earth to learn to help Earth. Now the ETs, all they are doing when people are talking about abductions or talking about experiments being done on them, if you really look at it in this way, all the ETs are doing is taking care of their own people. That's what you have to understand. They're keeping track of the ones who have chosen to take on this difficult journey. They're keeping track of their own people. They have to monitor the physical body because the energy from the ET is so totally different from the human that it has to constantly be adjusted. The energy has to be adjusted to see if it's surviving, if it is making it in the human body. This is why the so-called abductions, when they're taken on the ships, machines, is to adjust the energy, make sure the body is healthy, and it's able to handle this difficult assignment that it took on. This is what I want people to start looking at the ETs in a totally different perspective. And in the book, 3 Waves of Volunteers, it takes it beyond what the other investigators have found. I have no qualms about there are UFOs out there. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of pictures of them. That is like kindergarten stuff. We know they exist. We know they're watching us. They're taking care of us. But the other part is what the average person doesn't understand. They're only here keeping track of you and taking care of you so you can survive in this alien world that we're living in right now, so you can live on Earth. They're just taking care of their own people. They're nothing to be afraid of.